Hey everybody, games 1 and 2 of the Montreal Canadiens and Toronto Maple Leafs series are done now. The Habs took game 1 by a score of 2-1, and the Maple Leafs countered in game number 2 with a 5-1 beatdown on the Montreal Canadiens. I don't really want to dive into any of the John Tavares stuff. We obviously wish John Tavares here the best, but I do want to talk about some of the actual things that should occur in the coming games for the Montreal Canadiens and what I've thought of some of the players that we've seen so far in this series. There is no doubt in my mind that in Game 1, the two best players on the ice for the Montreal Canadiens were their goaltender in Carey Price, who has shown up in both of these games for the Montreal Canadiens. He's played like Carey Price does in the postseason. We're starting to see a little bit of a trend where he doesn't necessarily show up always throughout the regular season, and that is a bit troublesome with the size of his contract. But playoff Carey Price is a different animal, and he's been fantastic for the Montreal Canadiens in games 1 and 2. The other player I thought was really good in game number 1 was Josh Anderson. He was the best forward on the ice for either team. He was causing havoc in the Leafs end of the ice, and he scored a big goal to open the scoring for the Habs. When he's moving his feet and just doing the things he does to be effective, Josh Anderson is going to be a big factor in this series. He wasn't as noticeable in game number 2, and as a result, you notice that the Montreal Canadiens suffered a big letdown in that contest. So as Josh Anderson goes, the Montreal Canadiens go, and we're starting to see that trend a little more here. Now, this may surprise a lot of people, but through 2 games, the Montreal Canadiens defense hasn't exactly been world beaters, but their best defenseman from my point of view has been Joel Edmundson. He's been steady, very good defensively, and he's been really good at making that first pass for this team in the breakout. And I think Joel Edmundson has been a really big part of what this Montreal Canadiens team does on the back end this year, and he's proving so in this postseason. I was very hesitant about the signing of Edmundson early on this season and when Marc Bergevin made that move this offseason, but Edmundson has fit really well in this defensive group, and he's actually been the least of the Canadiens' worries so far this year. Now, Jesperi Kotkaniemi was obviously scratched for the Montreal Canadiens in game number 1, but he was inserted in game number 2 and scored a big goal for the Habs because of Jake Evans' injury in game 1. I really believe both of these kids need to be in the lineup when they are healthy. The Canadiens need to use their speed in this series. They can't rely on the older, slower veteran bodies like they have been in the past. Evans, Caulfield, Kotkaniemi, they all need to be in the lineup, and I believe once Evans is healthy, whether that's game 3 or beyond, he will be in the lineup, as will Cole Caulfield starting in game 3. The Canadiens know they need his help on the power play and just that even strength as well. This is a player that can score goals, and for a Canadiens team that's only scored 3 goals in the first 2 games, they need all the goal scoring they can get. Now let's get into some of the players that I've been really disappointed with so far in this postseason. It's pretty much the top 6 for the Montreal Canadiens, specifically the top lineup: Phillip Danault, Brendan Gallagher, and Thomas Tatar. All 3 have really been disappointments so far in this series, and they haven't been doing what we are accustomed to them doing as a unit. They haven't been creating the chances that the Montreal Canadiens need them to create, and they didn't do as good of a job in game number 2 of shutting down the big guns in Austin Matthews and Mitch Marner on the Leafs end of things. This line needs to be a big line for the Montreal Canadiens if they plan on having any success in this series or throughout the postseason, and they just haven't been so far in this series. Brendan Gallagher looks like a shell of his former self. He obviously needs some games to get his health back to normal, but we need to see Brendan Gallagher that we're accustomed to seeing, and if we don't, the Montreal Canadiens could be in for a very long series. Then you move along to the second line of Nick Suzuki, Tyler Toffoli, and Joel Armia, and they've been nowhere to be found offensively so far in this series. You would have thought they would have had a better showing in game number 2, specifically without John Tavares being matched up against them with him being out due to an injury now. I just think this line needs to produce more if the Canadiens have any chance of winning this series, and they haven't done a good job through 2 games. Even defensively, they really haven't been impressive so far. Joel Armia did a really good job on the penalty kill to help create the goal for Paul Byron in game number 1, but besides that, this line has been very much invisible for this Canadiens team this series. All you can really say now is you gave the veterans a chance to prove their worth in the lineup for this Montreal Canadiens team in the playoffs, and they didn't exactly show you they deserve to stay. You have to play the kids now, get the youth involved, get your speed involved, and then you'll have a better chance at beating this Toronto Maple Leafs team. That's it for me today from Cook's Corner. As always, leave your comments down below in the comment section and like this video as well. Let me know how you see the rest of this series playing out and whether or not you think the Canadiens can beat the Leafs in this 7-game series. I'm Zach Cook. We'll see you later.